Well, hello. Welcome once again to Pale Blooms and Beyond. Thank you for joining us today. Adrian Stambach is an English guitarist and bass player who got his start as a founding member of the Clique. The band was only together for a short time from 1964 to 65. No album was released at the time and only a couple of singles. But years later in 1995, there would be a compilation, the complete recordings 1964 to 65 on Dig the Fuzz Records. After the Clique, Adrian would play with Jesse Hector in his band for a time. Then Mr. Stambach would join Graham Rankine and formed a 50s rock and roll group and played a few gigs for fans of that style of music. By 1968, Adrian had left the music business. Since those heady days, my guest became a salesman and is self-employed as a sales agent for retail furniture shops. Well, welcome, Adrian.
How do you do?
Howdy. Yeah, I guess I should talk like that too, right? Well, take us back to the beginning. Where were you born?
I was born in London.
And do you have fond childhood memories growing up there?
Yeah, I was in London for a while, 30 years of my life.
As a kid, as a child?
Yeah, my mum kept a baby book on me.
Oh, good, good.
And she still got it. And I looked at that and she said, 1947, when I was 20 months old, Adrian started taking interest in gramophone records and keeps asking the names.
Yeah.
So of them. And she said, so she started me on that. And then a year later, she says that never stopped being interested in records and loves to show off when we have friends and relatives around. And he takes these records out and he tells them what the name of the record is and who it's by. And we got about 50 of these, she said, and we don't know how he does it, but he loves to show off and do that, you see. Now, I've never changed. That's a DJ, isn't it?
That's a DJ. That's a DJ.
You know? So I've always been interested. Now, I must say that my mother worked for a record company in the UK here called Goodson Record Company. Okay. You can look them up. You made these white plastic records that bent in half, literally. They were 1929 to 32, I think she worked for them. Okay. She would have built some sort of record collection. She also played the piano and tried to get me to play the piano, but I didn't want to play the piano. Didn't like the piano very much. You know, that didn't sound sexy enough. And I said, then we got my aunt and my cousin emigrated, as you can see on there, to the States in 1947. Okay. And 1947 to 1955, when my aunt finally went back to the States, she brought some records over and she left them with us. Now, those records included mostly country music. She got into country music. She actually played the violin, did my auntie Elsie. And my cousin Brian, he played the guitar, but he says, oh, I never got to anywhere. He said, I wasn't any particularly good at it. I just played it, you know. I said, oh, well, you played it at a good time of life. Right. He's living in California at the moment. He's 93 years old. Really? And he's also 93.
Wow. My mom just turned 91. So.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, longevity. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Is he still in good health? Is he still?
No. Yeah. Okay. He had a nice big house, but it got too much for him. Really, you know, getting about and stuff. So they've got into a residential place.
Yeah.
I asked him about playing guitar and that what he plays. I wasn't very good. He said I didn't really play in any bands or anything. I just learned to play.
Yeah.
So coming on from that, I had these great records. These were great records, and I loved them. You know, now my mum loved a particular song that was by a singer called Carl Smith. I don't know if you've heard of Carl Smith.
Yes, I have.
Smith.
Yes, I have.
He's another one of the guys I met. I had a nice long conversation with him, which I have recorded.
Aha, very good. There you go.
He told me all sorts of wonderful things. Now then I love these records, but I had no idea how old they were.
Yeah. Yeah.
So going later in life, I thought to myself, well, I want to try and find out how old these are. So that's when I started my research. But prior to that, I played the guitar. I just learned to play the guitar as a kid, and very basic, I suppose you could say. But you didn't have to play the guitar well to play what we had, skiffle music over here. And it was basic music, but people had T-chest basses, and as long as you could play a couple of three chords, you were okay. You included.
Lonnie
But I was very
Donegan.
young.
Lonnie Donegan.
Lonnie Donegan.
Yeah.
Lonnie Donegan, amongst others. Yeah, Lonnie Donegan.
Yeah.
Bought his records, and the other one I used to like. You mentioned Buddy Holly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, before Buddy Holly, I listened to Carl Perkins. The Blue Suede Shoes came out.
Oh,
over
right,
here.
right.
Funny about that. I went in and I went to the furniture shop. I heard it on the radio, and I went into the furniture into the record shop, and I said, look, I'm looking for a song about some shoes. I didn't know the name, and he said, chap was very pleasant. He said, blue suede shoes, is it? First he said, who's going to shoe you? I said, no, blue suede. I said, that sounds like it. Yeah, we got that. I said, in those days, you hadn't heard it. You wanted to make sure you got the right record. So there was a little booth. You go into this little booth, and it played a record, and just you confirm that that's what you wanted. And it played Elvis Presley one. I said, no, that's not the one. There's a much better one than that. And this chap said, guy who owned the shop, the lady didn't know. She said, well, the chap who owned the shop said, I know who you mean. Yeah, it'll be in next week. So it came in next week, and there it was, Carl Perkins, and put it on the thing there. Boom. I said, that's the one.
That's the one.
So going into the shop, asking, still they got any new records by Carl Perkins? But of course they didn't. He had only records issued over here.
Yeah, yeah.
And then
I talked to somebody not too long ago, and they said originally the records, they didn't have a store, but they would sell the records like in department stores, in appliance stores. There would be like a little area that they would sell the records, until they started, yeah. But all of those country and western, I'm into most of the artists that you mentioned. Yeah, I'm into most of those. Yeah. Go ahead.
There's some great. I didn't realize at the time my father sadly passed away in 1960, but he was he liked that what he called cowboy music.
Yeah.
And
right.
His favorite singer was Gene Autry.
Oh, yeah, Gene Autry, right. Right.
But also the Blue Yodeler, Jimmy Rogers, was in there as well. Some old Jimmy Rogers records. Yeah. I didn't have any by the Carter family, so I did get the Jimmy Rogers ones. And then there were other people like Wilf Carter. Wilf Carter was a Canadian singer, also known as Montana Slim. And we had a few of his records, and he was a beautiful singer.
Right.
So really early on, I was listening to all that kind of stuff. And then there was Buddy Holly. Now, they came out as the Crickets. This record came out, That'll Be the Day. And I thought to myself, well, that sounds good. I must get hold of that record. So I went down, I knew what it was called. That'll Be the Day, please. Okay, right, there it is. I didn't have to hear it. I know what it is. The Crickets, that's the one. Boom, got it home. Played it. And I thought to myself, I've got to, pick up some more by this group. But of course, there was a little period of time before another one comes out. And so I literally, as they came out, I went and bought them.
Yeah.
Now, Buddy Holly and the Crickets played up the road from me when they came over here on tour in 1958, March 58. Was the 12th of March 58. I think they played up the road from where I lived, the biggest cinema in Europe.
Oh, wow.
Gaumont State. And I thought, well, shall I go and see them? The guy I was at school with, he said to me, yeah, we'll go and see them. We'll go and see them. Two of us. It's okay, we'll go and see them. So I went to see them. And there was a lot of screaming bloody girls. And I thought, what are they screaming for?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Uh-huh.
I can't hear the music. Shut
up. Right. And then a few years later, that would be repeated with the Beatles, the girls screaming and all that, where you couldn't hear them. Yeah. Right.
Well,
right.
You have in the States with Elvis.
Yes.
He caught all that. Ricky Nelson did as well.
Ricky Nelson.
Very,
yeah. Right. Right.
Buddy.
You couldn't
Yeah,
hear
my
them.
Yeah, he said,
Uh,
let's go and get their autographs. I thought, what's an autograph? He said, well,
yeah.
they write their name on a bit of paper. I said, oh, what for? He said, well, it's like a for you. I said, all right. So I followed him around there to the stage door, waited and waited, and they came down and
Yeah.
they signed papers. And the only thing I had in my pocket was an exercise book
Yeah.
page. So it was put on this exercise book, Buddy Holly, cricket's all named there. I thought, well, that's all right. That's a nice little reminder of me. Kept
Yeah.
that. And I had that until 1979 when I moved house. And when I moved house, after I moved house, I could not find that at all. Not
Oh,
at all.
oh man.
It was,
Yeah.
nevertheless, one of those things.
Yeah.
But I look back at Buddy Holly now and I think to myself, well, you were a big fan of his at the time. And people rave about him and everything else. And he had a certain degree of talent, but he also had in his band there. He played with a friend of his called Sonny Curtis. Have you heard of him?
Yes, Sonny Curtis. Yes, I have. Yes. Yes.
Sonny
Right.
Curtis, another Texas lad, and came
Uh-huh.
from the same area.
Right.
And Sonny was. I got to meet the Crickets again. I got chatting to Sonny, and I was said. There was a record came out by Ricky Nelson, and the musicians will know this, and they do know this particular song, and it was called "Hello Mary Lou."
Yeah. Right. Yep. Yep.
1961,
Yep.
and none of us could work out how James Burton was playing that lick,
Mhm.
and I tried and tried and tried to drive myself mad, and it didn't sound anything like it. So I was talking to Sonny Curtis, as you do, and in a dressing room, and I said, and he was showing me some stuff, and I said, Sonny, I said, by the way, I said, you know that the lick that James Burton does in Hello Mary Lou, and he said, yeah, he said, I have to do this in his accent, West Texas accent. He said,
Yeah.
well, I think it goes something like this. He said, and I said, he played it.
Uh,
I'm watching him. Not
yeah.
even watching, but I clicked a photograph of it.
Uh-huh.
And I got back home and I worked out how to do it. And I said to my friends, and I said, oh, by the way, I can play that. Oh, yeah, of course you can. Of course you can. I said, oh, I can.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they said, well, play it then. So I took the guitar, I turned my back on them, so they couldn't see what I did. Oh, show us, show us. No, I'm not going to show you. But years later, I met James Burton, and I said to James, I said, by the way, that lick you did on there, Sonny Curtis showed me that, and I showed him a picture. This is Sonny showing me how to play that.
Uh-huh.
And he laughed, and he said, oh, he's faking it. He wasn't faking it. James Burton's a very nice chap, very pleasant chap. But recently we've had at the London Palladium, James Burton, they did a big thing on for James, and included was who was there? Brian May from Queen. Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones, Ronnie Wood also from the Rolling Stones, are all there, all paying tribute to him.
Wow.
And they asked him about this particular lick. So it wasn't, I'm the only person.
You're
this
not
was
the
a
only
thing
one.
that Ed play,
Yeah.
and nobody
Right.
could play it.
Right.
And they let him play it in front of everyone. So that was a little story I had to tell. That was really to know Sonny Curtis a little bit, and I took a few pictures. There's another little story which I put on there with David Bowie.
Right. Right. You want to wait till we get up to that part? We'll wait until we get up to that.
I jumped from side to side, didn't I? Anyway, was it Buddy Holly, weren't we? After Buddy Holly came,
Well,
big fan of
that's all right. I was going to ask you about were you in any band before the cravats, right?
Not really. Get-togethers, rather jam sessions.
Jam sessions.
Back in '58.
Okay.
But
not a formal band. Okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
A lot of groups like that.
Yeah. Well, talk about the cravats.
Well, the cravats, we got together by 1960, I think. I met Jesse Hector,
Okay.
Raymond, Jesse Hector, and he called himself Jesse Hector. So, and I got together with him,
Yeah.
and we had a pal who played guitar. And he said, "Oh," he said, "Jerry plays guitar as well." I said, "Oh, really?" So let's get together and have a little do. So we did. And in those days, the big name group in the UK was the Shadows, Cliff
Yeah.
Richard and the Shadows,
Right. Right.
and that type of thing. I like Joe Brown, but I was a much better guitarist than those
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
We needed a bass player, and Jerry
Uh,
was typical kid, folded his arms and said, "If I can't play lead guitar, I'm not playing." Oh, I
oh man.
thought, well,
Yeah.
you know, hey, we need a bass player. I fancy having a go on bass. Let me have a go on bass. So I
Yeah.
did. So we formed the group that way. We played at a little sort of weddings and socials, and we did a talent contest and stuff. We never made any records or anything.
Right.
Um, Jesse Hector, he was a bit of a wild guy. He was a bit of an
Right.
unusual fellow.
Right.
He liked to do what he liked to do.
Yeah.
His way. He would
Yeah.
be big Eddie fan.
Ah, right. Right. Well, well, at that time, did he have the sideburns at that time, or was that later, Jesse?
No, that was much later.
Much later. Okay.
We do know something about him then.
Yeah. Yeah. A little
Yeah,
bit. Yeah.
made a few records. Well,
Yeah.
I rejoined him after the Clique,
Yeah.
and he was wanted to do this Elvis thing, and he was going to get it. He could stand on his tiptoes and walk across just like Presley, everything. And he
Uh,
said that he wanted to produce the sound that Presley did. So I had to learn every Scotty Moore lick there was,
yes.
which was difficult because I
Yeah.
played finger style anyway.
Yeah.
And we had a few gigs, and some of the gigs we played were the clubs in London where the big famous people used to visit, the Blazes and the Scotch of St James and places like that. And we got a lot of claps and stuff, but I thought they're not really appreciating this as
Yeah.
he wants it to be appreciated. They were looking upon it as a novelty act.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
look, the old fashioned days, old boy, ha ha ha, and playing that.
Oh
So,
boy. That's
you
good.
know, you know.
Yeah. That's good. That's
So
good.
I had that. That was good, and that was enjoyable
Yeah.
for a while, and then I thought, no, it's not really
Yeah.
what I want to do.
No.
Um,
Well,
so, yeah,
well, go back to the Click. Prior to the
Click.
Click,
Yeah,
there were what were the two early names of the group before the Click?
right. Well, the first name we had that I can remember was the Roosters.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that's I'm a little red rooster, a howling wolf number.
Okay. Right. Right.
So we thought to ourselves, there's going to be loads of people called Roosters, so we
Yeah.
need something different. So we changed the name, spelt it differently, and we didn't really like that. We thought, oh, it's a bit silly that. Let's pick a better name than that. And we picked not a much better name, the King Bees, because I'm a King Bee, Slim Harpo number. And we
Yeah.
thought King Bees, everybody knows that. Oh dear. Anyway, there was this group that came out. They were called Davy Jones and the King Bees, and they had a record out. And I thought, well, I'll go and see those guys. I could get into the ATV studios, television studios, at a pass. And I went there to see him. They were sharing a dressing room with the Crickets.
Were they really? Okay.
One of the
Wow.
pictures I took
Yeah.
of Sonny Curtis playing has a member of the King Bees sat down
Uh-huh.
listening.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hauled Davy Jones out and said a quick word. We had chatted about music for a while, and I said, by the way, I said my group is also called the King Bees.
Uh-huh.
Is it? I said yes. I said, and he said to me, I said, I'm just wondering if to save confusion, whether you could change your name. And he said, well, I said, have you got a record coming out then or something? I said, well, we will have. Ah, he said, rubbed his head, we have.
Yes,
So,
they already did.
yeah. Anyway, we've been had a good day, and that was the end of that.
Yeah.
And
And
but we hung around a few places. Then suddenly, this guy comes out called David Bowie. I thought, oh, I recognize him. I wonder
uh,
what he's. That's the chap I had a coffee with.
yeah, you remembered him. Yeah, yeah. Well, you
Past,
know, I thought it was interesting how remember the monkeys. and how they had Davy Jones in there. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's his real name, but then David Bowie, Davy Jones. I thought that was interesting. The same names
Well,
like that.
Davy Jones, David Bowie's came first.
Yes,
Davy Jones was an actor
yes, yes.
in
Right.
the hearing things, so they formed this group.
Yeah,
We all thought the Monkees were like a formed group and didn't have any relevance.
yeah,
We had to pay our dues. We had to go down clubs and stuff and have bottles thrown us and God knows what else to get by. We've got to
yeah.
play the good music so they appreciate it.
Right, right,
We thought they were, but of course they were very good musicians, the Monkees.
right,
I didn't realize.
right, right. Michael Nesmith. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Michael.
there, yeah. So there's and Mickey's the only one still alive, still living. Mickey. Well, who was it that actually came up with the name The Clique? Who came up with that name?
Was our we had a manager. He was like a friend, just a friend. We needed a manager, and we said, Bob, you're pretty clever. Why don't you become our manager? Early days, and he said, yeah, well, if you want me to. I said, yeah. I said, you can become our manager. We had a road manager, Alan, and there was Bobby, and then we then touched up with a guy called Bob Druce Management, and he was like an agent who fixed gigs for you.
Yeah.
And he had various places where he got gigs, and the Who were on the same thing as us at the time. They were called the High Numbers.
Yeah, High
And
Numbers.
yeah, so we first started playing. We played with them when they were called the High Numbers. The first time we turned up was a place called Brighton on the south coast, and I can remember that because I think I forgot my leads or something happened and we were late and they went on first and we should have gone on first and them, but they went on first. And I'm watching Johnny Entwistle playing the bass. And he was playing the bass dum, 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 with his fingers. And I played
Yeah.
with the plectrum. I
Right.
thought, well, Christ, I've always liked that.
Yeah.
I've admired various bass players playing that way. And I thought, I've got to learn to play that way.
Yeah.
So the next time we played with them, it's me playing like this. John Entwistle's playing like this. I looked at him. He looked at me and we sort of laughed.
He changed.
Mutual admiration thing going on here. Anyway, he
That's
started
fun.
as well. So he was a very good musician, was Johnny Entwistle.
Yes.
But we got to know them quite well because, as I say, we were on the same management and we played the same gigs.
Right.
Sometimes at the same time.
Right.
I even remember that they used to have a residency at a place called the Railway Hotel on a Tuesday. And when they finished there, we took over. Keith Moon and Pete Townsend, when they weren't playing, used to come and watch us play. Now, more than one occasion would be where Keith Moon would want to get up and play drums. He was a bit of a look at me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you know what I mean?
Yes.
So I said, yeah, okay, fine. But I can remember drummers I knew how to play. Drummers had a beat which went steady. Bass drum, boom, 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 boom. You follow it like this. Hey.
Yeah.
Oh no, not with Keith.
Not
I
with
think
him.
he learned from what's that chap, Gene Krupa or something, and he was going all over the place. And I thought, oh, I can't. I've got to think of the tune in my head and forget about him next to me because that's the only way I can do it. And I often said that to Johnny. It was, how do you play with this guy? He says, I've learned.
They learn too.
Yeah. Other times we played with on the same bill with the Yardbirds. They had Eric Clapton at the time.
Yeah.
Eric was up and coming lad, and he was a very good guitar player. But there were several other guitar players out there. We had Albert Lee, who was playing with Chris Farlow and Thunderbirds, and a number of other lads. It's surprising, Greg, the amount of people who can play guitar very, very well. Really, really well, and yet they don't get anywhere because they don't want to get anywhere.
Okay.
They really don't. it's like I do it for fun. Yeah, but it's
Right.
so good, for Christ's sake. No, I'm happy with doing what I am doing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you have
There are.
guitar players in the country music field that are way above everybody else. I mean,
Yeah.
Brad Paisley, if you heard
Right.
him,
Oh, yes. Yes. Right.
Paisley, and a
Yeah.
number of other guitar players. Some unfortunately passed away, but and I listen to those guys on YouTube. You pick them up, and you think, watching them, I think,
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
man, I didn't
Well,
continue on. People would judge me against them, and they'd say, "You're hopeless."
yeah. Well, who were some other bands that you opened for, or how were some of your live shows, early live shows
Oh
with the
yeah,
Clique?
yeah. The Kinks. We opened for the
Okay.
Kinks,
Okay.
and Dave Davis came up to us and said after the show, he said, "We've just come back from the States." He said, "And you're the best band we've come across." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, best band. We had a terrific act."
Yeah.
There's a funny story here. There was a group called the Fortunes. Now, the Fortunes had a number one record,
Yeah.
and we played on the same bill. We were supporting them, and we were told at this particular place to keep it down, lads. Keep it down. Don't no excitement here. All right, okay. So we played a few Chuck Berry numbers and played away. And then they came out and played their bit. So, well, the girls all screamed and the big thing drum rolled. Fortunes, bomb. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
very impressive. And so we watched them play, and when we went on, the people started walking out. And
Oh
so my
no.
singer said, "Where the bloody hell do you think you lot are going?" And they told,
Right. Right.
"Okay, lads, let's give them what for." And then we gave them the club act.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
part of that meant that we did a number called "You Can't Judge a Book by the Cover," which is a Bo Diddley song.
Okay.
And we took the tempo down and down and down and down till everyone stopped playing, and we stood like mannequins like that. I stood with my bass, drummer stood with his sticks, the singer like that. Nobody moved except for the lead guitar player, and he was strumming away and shaking his head, and hair coming all over the place. And then gradually we built it up to a crescendo of noise, and the crescendo of noise was noise. It wasn't music; it was noise, showmanship stuff. I ended up taking my bass off, standing on my 18-inch speaker cabinets, placing the bass down like this, whacking the strings like this, and looking at the audience. And they were like this, never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
So when
Wow.
we finish, we thank you very much. We won't come back here again. They won't invite us back again here again. We walked past the Fortunes. We said, "Follow that, lads."
Right.
Couldn't follow that.
Right.
So basically, what happened was the people who weren't fans, the diehard fans stayed, but
Yeah.
those that weren't fans just thought, "We've seen the best act," and that was it.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
had to play those clubs, and we had to play against some of the wildest bands out there. We played with the Who a few times, and we had to outdo them.
Yeah.
We had to outdo the Yardbirds.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
had to do this. It was our thing.
Right. It was
So we
competition.
had,
Yeah. A band competition like that. Yeah. Yeah.
well, in
Between
a
you.
way,
Yeah.
it is. Anytime you get a band on stage with a name band, the
Uh-huh.
the support band has to show that they're good. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Right.
they play their best. Everything else.
Yeah.
We have you heard of a guy called Gary Glitter?
Oh yes. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Right. Rock and roll. What was the song he had? Yeah. They still play it. They still play it.
He was a naughty boy in the end.
Right.
Pedophile, didn't know.
Yeah.
But we worked with him for 3 months. He was a DJ at the time. He tried his hand at singing.
Yeah.
And the record came out and it didn't do very well. So he became a DJ.
DJ. Yeah.
DJ. And so we played with him. He was our DJ for about 3 months. Never saw anything bad about him. He seemed like a nice enough fella, and that was that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of the people we played with was one of the highlights was Jimmy Reed,
Oh,
blues
okay.
guitar man.
Yeah. Right.
Jimmy
Right.
Reed.
Yeah.
Him.
Yeah.
But the others we played with, quite a lot of bands that weren't popular at the time. Oh, Van Morrison was one we played with.
Oh,
Van
right.
Morrison was in a group called Them, and they had a
Yes.
hit record, Riding High.
Yeah.
And we played with this. There was 4 bands on at this place. Guy called Peter Stringfellow. Now, Peter Stringfellow, he became a bit of a personality, character, a very pleasant character. Had this in Sheffield, he had this club, Mojo Club, and we were destined to go there. So we went there and played that. The top of the bill was them. Now, there was a local group came on first, and then we followed them. And there was followed then by a group called Zoot Money's big roll band. He was a bit of a Georgie Fame type guy. And then the closing act was them. Now, unfortunately, people were walking out, not because they didn't want to see them, they didn't want to miss the last bus home.
Oh, okay. Oh,
find
their way home.
Unfortunate for him.
Oh, that's too bad. Yeah.
Another happy memory I have is we played in Newcastle on Tyne. We played a place called the Club A Go Go, which is where the Animals were discovered.
Okay.
And we had a gig there, and we were going on to Scotland from there. That's Newcastle is high North England, Northeast England. We're going up to Scotland from there, and we played 11 o'clock. We're putting our stuff away, and the chap said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, we're packing up because we're going, up to Scotland." He said, "No, you can't do that." He said, "We've got you booked until 2 a.m." Yeah. Oh, you're joking. No, we're not doing that, so we don't get paid then.
Okay.
Well, you want to get paid and we need the money, we're going to have to do this, boys. So we did.
Yeah. And
we're about half an hour into the act, and lo and behold, somebody turned up in the audience. And my singer said to me, he said, "Hey, look who's come to see us." I said, "Wow. Well, we have to do a couple of his numbers, don't we, eh? We have to do that." So we did a couple of his numbers. And we weren't going to let on that we knew he was there. He was with a little bit of non people standing towards the back. But as soon as he heard us do his numbers, we watched him nod. He knew he was there.
Yeah.
And people said to me, "Well, go on then. Who was it? Who was it?" It was Bob Dylan.
Oh,
nonetheless.
Okay.
He played City Hall, big place up the road, same night. And I know what he's done. He's come down and said, "Where's the action, man?" Yeah. So the action man was where we were.
It's where you were.
So I played. Bob Dylan watched me play, but I've never seen him play. I've never been to a Bob Dylan concert. He's been to one of mine.
he's been.
I'm not alone.
Right.
I'm not alone in this. Loads and loads of people have had that type of experience. Yeah,
with him coming to their shows.
Well, they meet people and they play. People had. I mean, if you talk about Hank Snow, for instance, Hank Snow and the Carter family had Elvis Presley as their backup act.
Right, exactly, exactly, right, yeah.
Oh, the Carter family, and
and then Elvis as the backup. That's wild. That's wild.
That's what happens when they start out. They start out down there and they work up there. And some of the people that I knew played with some of the big names. The Beatles, met the Beatles. I used to go down to EMI Studios. It was now called Abbey Road Studios. And we knew the doorman there. And I wanted to get in. Well, we couldn't get in. So we pretended to be, we saw the guys unloading the vans. And so he said, "Oh, do you need any help with that?" "Oh, yeah. Do you work here?" Yeah, we work here. So we watched a few bands there, some of them big names, Jerry and the Pacemakers and that. I took photographs and took autographs and stuff like that. And there's a funny story here I can relate regarding Paul McCartney. I was in this guitar shop in the West End of London with my friends, and in walks Brian Jones of Rolling Stones. Right. Now, he put his back to the window. This place has windows that way and that way. You could see right in. And people were walking past and that, taking no notice. And until Paul McCartney turns up. Now, he turns up and walks in. By this time, I've started to talk to Brian Jones. And so Paul McCartney comes and joins us. And I'm looking, and suddenly everybody realizes who's there. Oh, well, they had to lock the doors. and the little girls with their noses pressed up against the
Yeah.
crying.
Yeah.
Everything stops. The cars couldn't go anywhere. And I thought, what's going to happen now, Paul? How are you going to get out of here? He said, we've done it before. So anyway, they got the police. Police had to come. The police cleared away. They put Paul's car out right outside there with the door open. And the manager had his hand on the thing like that. You ready, Paul? Open the door, and Paul ran out and dived into the back of the car and whoom, gone.
And whooshed away. I
thought, no, I wouldn't fancy that. You fancy that? I don't fancy living life like that.
No, I wouldn't either.
Added to that was that Brian Jones was still there. Yeah. I said to him, you know, Brian, I said, all these people have now gone. They don't realise you're here. They didn't. No idea he was there as well. That was a bit of an experience.
That's funny. Outshadowed by Paul. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Well, do you recall going back to the Clique, the recording sessions for the demos? For the demos? Yeah. Yeah. Did it go pretty well?
Yeah. We decided we weren't going to get anywhere unless we had a demo into a recording company or something. So we found this studio in the countryside. I think they had recorded before, rock people before. So we went there and we recorded 4 numbers. We got an acetate, went off, and we took it to a few people. Larry Page picked it up.
Okay. Yeah.
Larry was running the Kinks at the time and Riot Squad, 1 or 2 others. And he said, come in, lads. I think we can do something with you. So we recorded a couple of 3 numbers at the Regent Sound Studios, which was in Denmark Street. And lo and behold, he's someone to release these. Really? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Had dress you up in these suits and stuff. I don't want suits. We don't wear suits. But, well, no, you've got to wear suits. Okay. We're going to get you some TV appearances, which never happened. But we're going to promote you. Never really promoted us hard enough, I don't think. But however, that's what happens when you have a name like the Kinks. Everything happens. And the other groups are just sort of like this.
Right. Yeah.
And
they put everything. They put everything behind one group. Yeah. All the promotion and everything.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He put his whole life in. But anyway, we had this record come out, and I didn't know this, but they released it in the United States. ABC Paramount released it, and it didn't sell. And then he said, "We'll try another song, a new recording thing." So this was at the Olympic Sound Studios, which had Rolling Stones recorded there and all sorts of people. And so we thought, well, we're going to get a nice record here, and it was a good record. But unfortunately, I'll tell you this, Greg. I'll tell you what happens. Some groups are so keen on not being commercial.
Right.
They want to be different. When you want to be different, nobody buys your record.
Right.
We had groups over here. It was in the heat of the rhythm and blues boom, R&B boom, and we were doing hard rhythm and blues, Howlin' Wolf numbers, and Rod Coombs will know about that because he did the same. And then we had this the other groups come out like Herman's Hermits. La 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 la. Oh, what's all that about? What can you play that? No, we don't want to play that rubbish. We played Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters and proper stuff.
Right.
But you see, the main problem with that is, whilst you're doing that, you see, the people that buy the records, the little girls, they don't want to see that kind of stuff you're doing. Right. They like these la la boys, you see. And so Herman and the other groups like that all made money and got themselves famous and everything else. So that was a lesson we learned. We realized we weren't going to make it. So that was that. There was another little bit of an adage. There was a group called the Small Faces.
Oh, right. Yeah. I love their music. Yeah. With
the music.
With little Stevie Marriott. Yeah.
Stevie Marriott. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, Stevie Marriott, he was in Marriott's Moments first of all. We heard of him, but we'd never played with them before. But they were a support group for us. We played at a place called the London Cavern, and he was. They came in as our support group. Now, because we had a wild act I mean, wild act. He came up to us after between the show thing, and he said to us, "Have you got any gear?" We said, "Gear? What do you mean gear? Have you got any drugs?" We said, "No, we haven't." "Don't believe you. Hey, can't do an act like that without being on drugs." I said, "Well, we are." I didn't even drink. I didn't even
Yeah.
drink alcohol. The other lads
Yeah.
did, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm just naturally mad.
Yeah. Just naturally.
Yeah, but there we are.
Yeah. Well,
So there we are.
you guys started progressing, playing bigger venues like the Marquee. That
Yeah, the
was a real
Marquee.
place. That was a place to
Didn't pay
play.
any money.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Didn't pay
Okay.
any money,
Uh-huh.
but
Right.
I've got photographs. Oh, I've got one here.
Okay.
It's not very good. I don't know if you can see this. It's not very good. Can you see that?
Yeah.
There on the end.
Right. Right.
A singer, drummer, guitar
right.
player, showing the crowd watching us.
Oh, yes, yes. There you go. I like that. I like the wall there behind you too, the stripes.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
all the big names, that played the Marquee, you can tell that Marquee because that's behind them. The Who,
Right. That
Rolling
was
Stones, everyone.
yeah. Yeah. Because that was the big thing back then to get a residency at the Marquee. If you got a residency, yeah,
Right.
you got it right. Right.
We didn't get a resident. We played there 2 or 3 times, and one of the times we played there was playing alongside the Who,
Yes, yes.
and we played so well that we didn't think we were ever going to go back there again, because what they do is they want the support group to show how good the main group is.
Yes, right.
So when you've got a support group that's not much different from the main group, it kind of makes people think, well, what's so good about the big stars? I mean, this other group, it just
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
for promotion.
And there's been a lot of that hijacking too of equipment by the main group. They would mess with the support group's equipment, or they would turn down the volume. Things, you hear stories about that. Turn the amps down when the other band's playing, and yeah, there's been a lot of that because they don't want to be outshone, by the other.
Little Richard that started that game.
Okay, okay. Yeah,
story.
yeah.
Little Richard was performing with Jerry Lee Lewis, the same show.
Uh-huh.
And Little Richard was closing the show, and Jerry Lee didn't like that.
Yeah.
He said, no, I closed the show. And they wouldn't allow that. The promoter said, no, Little Richard closes the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
So penultimately, he was just before Little Richard. He did his show. He did a song called Great Balls of Fire. Set fire to the piano.
Oh.
And I have to be racist here and say this, because what Jerry Lee apparently said to him, he said, "Follow that, black man."
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Little Richard thought, "What am I going to do? Piano to play."
Uh-huh.
So that's the sort of thing that went on.
Yeah.
I mean, Jerry Lee was a bit extreme, but I mean, others would do. You're quite right. Turn down the amps while their backs were turned.
Right. Stories
I haven't
like
heard that before, but what you say.
Yep. It went on. It went on. Well, you guys released a couple of singles, but no album. Not until years later with that compilation that I mentioned, the complete recordings.
Right. I had to hand the demos over, all the recordings that I had, the ones that weren't issued, a couple that were recorded for Pi.
Yeah.
Or were never issued.
Yeah.
And this guy did it all on one LP, which I thought, oh, that's good.
Right.
We had appeared on compilation things, CDs, where they Japanese ones and things, but no, we didn't get any money from that. We didn't get any money from that at all. It's just a case of we're happy to have somebody listen to us on record, which a lot of kids were.
Yeah.
It's only, I think, in fact, going back to the days of Buddy Holly, I think he was probably one of the first to actually say, no, I want this released, I want that released. I don't like that. He took charge, I think, to a degree of what he actually released or tried to. But Norman Petty was a bit of a bugger. And
Yeah, he was. He was.
he wasn't nice, was he? He wasn't a nice. He looked a nice fella. You look at a picture of him, big smiling face. What a nice chap he is.
Yeah. No, not beside,
Body.
not behind the scenes. He wasn't. No, no,
No, he wasn't. Wasn't.
no, he wasn't.
I wish I'd had more time to speak to Buddy Holly, but I didn't. That was just a quick do.
Yeah.
I'd have spent more time. I wish I'd have met Waylon Jennings. I've seen him live on stage, Waylon, but
Right.
not actually met him.
Right.
The ones I met were still pretty big names, and
Yeah.
they were all very pleasant.
Yeah.
I didn't expect to get such a good interview with George Jones as I did,
Uh-huh.
but I did. Have
Yeah.
you heard? I'm deviating a bit now. Have you heard of the Davis sisters?
No,
No.
no.
In 1953, two girls, schoolgirls, they were at school together, formed a duet. One was called Betty Jack Davis, and the other was called Mary Ellen Pinnock, I think she was called. And they formed together. They called themselves the Davis sisters, and they made a recording for RCA.
Mm-hmm.
And this RCA recording was put out, and sadly, just before the recording either came out or just after, Betty Jack, they're both involved in a car accident. A GI had fallen asleep at the wheel and hit them head on. Bang.
Wow.
And Betty Jack was killed, but Mary Pinnock was not. She later became known as Skeeter Davis.
Yes. Now I know Skeeter Davis. Now I know
Yeah.
I didn't know
Correct.
that history. I didn't know the background there. I did not know that. No. But
Well, I had this old 78 and it was messed up somewhat. So I had to decide I liked them so much, I wanted to get all the records I could find.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no LP of them at the time, nothing, just singles. And I tracked down most of these singles. And eventually I got to meet Skeeter Davis. And I told her all about I've got these records, Skeeter. Would you mind signing them? And blow me down, she did.
He did.
And she was so warm and loving. She put on one, I appreciate this more than I can say, she said. It's really loving person. And I thought, what a lovely person she is.
Yeah.
I've got a girl I know who I call on, and she's a big fan of country music. She's much younger than me, but her dad used to be involved. And she's a big fan of Skeeter Davis. And I can't wait to take these records round and show her. Look.
Yeah, look. Yes, right.
For me. Oh.
Right. See, you're like I am. I mean, a big fan of music and a collector, and it's my life. It's been my life. So yeah, I understand. I can relate. I can relate to that. How long after you left the Clique? How long did you play with Jesse Hector?
About a year, I think. 65, 66. And then he went on to do his thing, which was, people say that he was one of the first, if not the first, to invent punk.
Okay, right.
Because he was doing punk 10 years before. And he was swearing on stage and that. And he came on stage once and he gets a broom and he's sweeping up. He says, this bloody stage it's too dirty for me to work on. And he's sweeping it. And people are standing there waiting to come on and sweeping the stage. And that was something a bit different. Nobody's seen that before.
No,
he was that off,
Yeah. And then it was, then you went on to Graham Rankine.
Graham Rankine. Graham.
Yeah.
I don't know how I met him, actually. I can't remember how I met him, but he had a big Studebaker car.
Yeah. Okay.
Put up outside my house, a big Studebaker car, and we used to go off, go to rehearsals into his house, but after that I got some photographs taken where I was playing guitar with him, but he later went on to form the House Shakers, as I think I put in my thing then, and played it and backed up Gene Vincent.
Okay,
now,
right.
Told me some sad stories about Gene Vincent.
Yeah.
Gene Vincent died. He was only 35 when he died, I think. And he had this gammy leg, which was causing him a lot of pain. And he was drinking to try and get rid of it. And eventually he got an ulcer, I think, which perforated. rushed him to hospital, but too late.
Yeah.
But he told me a lot about Gene Vincent. I was never a Gene Vincent fan. I thought his voice was a little bit too soft.
Yeah.
It wasn't as good as Buddy Holly's, but it was
Yeah.
soft, and I thought
Yeah.
doesn't sound good enough to be a rock and roll singer. Not Eddie
Right.
Cochran.
I was going to say,
So,
Eddie. I liked Eddie. I liked Eddie better. Yeah, I did like Eddie.
oh yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, he was good. He was very good.
Yeah.
So being in a group, though, the main problem with that is you don't get to see other people play unless you play on the same bill. Unless
Right.
you have a night off or something and then you want to do something else. But I missed an awful lot of people. I missed all the Muddy Waters coming over and Sister Rosetta Tharpe and all those wonderful people that came over here.
Yeah.
The only blues artist I did actually see, I got to see, I'm pleased to see, apart from who we played with, was Arthur Big Boy Crudup.
Oh, okay.
Now, he was the guy who wrote that "That's All Right" song
Yeah.
that Elvis
Yeah.
Presley did a few of his numbers. And I went to watch him.
Yeah.
And I thought, aren't I lucky to watch this guy here now? There'd be so many people that would like to have watched him, but either don't know he's on or whatever, and they will miss this.
Yep.
So I was pleased to see him. But
You got to see him.
there's so many I missed, really.
Oh yeah.
Good.
Well, they used to have those package tours too, with just a lot of those blues R&B artists. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And Newport festivals, Newport jazz festivals came on.
Right.
You have a guy called what's he called now? Oh dear. I'm thinking of him. I can see him now, and I can't bloody remember his name. It'll come to me. But he was a guitar player. He's a slide guitar player, and one of the best. And he did a thing on Big Joe Williams.
Oh, Big Joe Williams.
And he's doing this Big Joe Williams song, and I'm thinking, cool, he's wild man. He's wild man, this guy. It's gone. Remember his name, but it'll turn up.
That's all right. That's all right.
We are.
Yeah, Well, so you, and had you enjoyed after you left the music business? Did you enjoy, or have you enjoyed sales?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I learned how to control people.
Okay. Okay, good. Good for you.
I could persuade people to buy things when they came in saying, "I'm not buying anything today," Yeah. No, it's all right. By the time they'd gone out, thank you very much, sir. I know on what they call direct sales, door to door, selling, knock on people's door, and selling vacuum cleaners. Now
okay.
Favorite people say, "Oh,
yeah."
And I learned from that, and that was a bit of an experience because the guys who were involved in that had all come out of prison, just come out of prison. Well, one guy had come out of prison. He was the guy that ran it. He was the let's say the boss, as it were. He'd come out of prison for grievous bodily harm, and he was, nasty piece of work. Didn't want to upset him, but he was very, very good at what he did. He was very good, and he taught me an awful lot. And it did teach me how to handle people.
Okay.
So I learned how to handle groups of lads.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. Just by the way you act, and never show yourself as a threat to them, and I was all right. So lots of things I learned from that. And it's great when you sell something and you feel yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when you don't sell anything, you feel horrible.
Yeah.
And you have these little between each other, you have these tests, or as we say, competitions. Who can do the best?
Right.
Well, who you pick, actually, you can pick somebody there and they just simply will not buy. No matter what you try, they don't buy. And your mate can pick up one, they're as easy as hell. Oh, I've come in to buy this. Every day, which one do you want? Oh, that one, fine.
Right. Yeah.
But no, music is a thing. I've still got all my music cassettes, and I've got cassettes up there, not cassettes, CDs, 78s, loads of 78s there.
Yeah.
The oldest 78 I've got is actually a UK 78 called Swanee River.
Ah,
And it's by a fellow called Riley Puckett. Have you heard that name?
no, I have not. I can safely say that.
Riley. Well, he was part. Have you heard of Gig Tanner and Skillet Lickers?
I don't believe I have. What year was that?
1926.
No, no.
Pre Rogers. This was
No,
what
no.
they called old time music,
Yeah.
string band music. My dad must have got hold of these somehow or other, but I had a few of these Leake County Revelers, Tom Darby, and there were some very, very good records there, and I absolutely love this stuff.
Yeah.
Now I got a CD which came out, which it talks about the bluegrass music.
Oh yeah.
And how what influenced bluegrass, and it goes back to that music, the string band music, which influenced the bluegrass. There's
right.
Bill Monroe. Well, Bill Monroe, I wish I'd met him as well.
Yeah. Right.
He was something else. You've probably heard of all these people. Bill Monroe must be an institution over there.
Yeah. Yeah. He's pretty big. Yes, he has been. Yep. Bill Monroe. Yeah. Well, was it? Was it? Or do I want to say the Mule Skinners? Was that Bill Monroe?
Mule Skinner. No. That was a rock and roll. Mule Skinners.
Okay. That was somebody. I was thinking his backing band. His backing band. Okay, maybe. I don't know why.
They something like that. Bill Monroe and the Bluegrass Boys, and they became from there. You got Lester Flatt and Earl Scruggs.
Earl Scruggs. Yes. Beverly Hillbillies. They did that theme to Beverly Hillbillies. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Yes, they did.
And it's funny, really, because it's history of country music in the 1920s, 30s. It was called hillbilly music.
Yeah, it was.
And you probably know that anyway.
Yeah.
And someone decided to call it country and western for some reason or other. I don't know why. Well, probably because they had cowboy singers.
Yeah.
The Autries and those people. And then gradually it became country music after the war.
Right.
I think a lot of African American guys were in the last war, and they mixed up with the white guys, and the white guys were singing their music, and both appreciates each other. You notice there's no color prejudice in music.
No, there's not.
Is there?
You're right. You're right. Yeah, you're right.
People play each other. Don't say I'm not playing with him because he's black. You had a problem. I don't know whether it was it rife in Texas? It certainly was around Mississippi in those areas.
It was some here. There was some here. Yeah.
We never had it over here.
It was that's what I'm talking to the I know it's everywhere, but it was not as bad over there. You guys were more colorblind, I think, to that, because so many of the black artists would go there and be more welcome than they were here. And appreciated. Yeah, for sure. Even some relocated. They moved to England. They ended up living over there. Yeah. Anything else that Adrian you'd like to mention in closing? It's been a nice...
all sorts of things that you want to mention. I should mention that, but of course I forget.
I do that.
You got all in your mind for certain things.
I do that.
You've recorded it. What happens with the recording?
What I'll do is usually it takes me about a week or a week and a couple of days. I'll do this on a weekend, record it, and then the following weekend, when I have time, I'll do any editing that I have to, and then I'll post it on my channel, like where you saw Rod's interview.
Oh yeah.
And post it on there, and then I'll also send you a copy. I'll send you a link, so you can put it on your Facebook or wherever you want to, on your social media. You can post it, or you could even email it to people. Email the link, if you want to do that. Whatever you want to, see what kind of responses and comments we get.
What a nice chap you are.
Right. But I want to keep in touch because of the love for music that we both share. All
All
right.
right.
All right, Adrian. Well, again, all the best to you, and thanks for doing this. All right. Thank you.
That's great. Enjoyed it.
All right. Will do. All right.
Take care of yourself and have a good evening.
Well, you have a good week, okay?
Thank you very much.
All right. You're
Cheers.
very